Hey guys, what's up? DJ the Man here, back here with another video, and today's video is going to be my top 10 worst anime I saw in 2015. That's right, what I saw in 2015, not what came out in 2015, especially because all the anime that I watched that came out in 2015 was actually pretty good. So before I get started, I just want to make something very clear. It was actually really hard for me to come up with 10 anime to put on this list. So that means that the first few anime on this list aren't really that bad and don't really deserve to be on this list. The first few anime are just anime that either I found just a bit that disappointed me, or I just didn't find them as entertaining as other anime that I saw this year. I'll let you guys know when we get to the anime that I really didn't like. But for now, let's start off with a dishonorable mention, and that would be The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. Now, let me explain. Like I said, the first few anime on this list really don't deserve to be on this list. Now, let me explain why it ended up here. Well, I really like this series. In fact, I would love to see another season. But what lands this on my dishonorable mentions list is the second half of the 2009 broadcast of the show. Well, the first off is the Endless 8. And for those that don't know, the Endless 8 is when the show showed the same 8 episodes 8 times with slight differences between each episode. Like, no joke. I can understand it from an artistic standpoint and why they did this because of the movie that followed the series, but from an entertainment standpoint, it's just awful. Then the stuff dealing with the club making a movie was pretty boring, and those are the reasons why this ended up on my dishonorable mentions. And now to move on to the real top 10.
At number 10.
Sankarea. Well, the story follows a guy named Chihiro who is obsessed with zombies to the point to where he really isn't interested in human girls. He wants a zombie girlfriend. Well, Chihiro ends up befriending a girl named Sanka, who ends up dying and becoming a zombie. So the story ends up following the life of Chihiro and his new female friend, zombie girl thing. The thing that lands this anime on this list is that the story really doesn't go anywhere. I mean, they do this thing with Rei's dad and stepmom, but other than that, nothing really happens. They aren't even a couple by the end of the anime, and it kinda has a go read the manga ending that makes you just want to facepalm.
At number 9.
The Disappearance of Nagato Yuki-chan. If you haven't seen The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, then you probably won't understand what I'm about to say. Well, the setting of this anime is based on the alternate universe depicted in the movie The Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya, and it focuses on Yuki Nagato, who is not an alien, but rather a shy, timid girl who is a member of the North High Literary Club alongside Akasura, but her best friend and Kion, who she has a crush on. The series follows Yuki and her companions as she tries to confess her feelings for Kion, who is oblivious to the fact that she likes him, and this anime is a drama romantic comedy. Now, I really like the first 5 episodes of this series, but what lands this show on this list is the fact that after episode 5, it becomes a generic slice of life anime with a lot of slice of life fluff. And what I mean by slice of life fluff is that the characters do stuff like go to a temple and a shrine and go to the hot springs, but nothing significant happens to move the story, so you just feel like you are wasting your time. Yes, some stuff does happen a little later on in the series, but it's still kind of boring.
At number 8.
Absolute Duo. Absolute Duo follows the MC Tor who enrolls in Kaio Academy, a high school where students battle each other with weapons known as blades as they train to become future peacekeepers of the world. The students are assigned partners hinting at the name Absolute Duo, so Tor ends up being teamed up with this girl named Julia and must share a room with her. So the anime follows Tor, Julia, and the other students at the academy as they train to become stronger, and also later on in the series take on an enemy that has a vendetta against the school. And the genre of this show is fantasy, romance, action, harem. What lands this show on this list is how generic it is and all the different cliches that it uses at times. The generic part being that the students are going to the school to learn how to use these weapons or magic or whatever has been done plenty of times before, but I will give it props for doing something a little bit different, and that is doing the whole partner thing, and also not doing the cliche of the guy going to an all-girls school, but it does have its fair share of cliche harem tropes. It uses some cliches like the guy ending up in misunderstandings and the guy not going after the girl even though it's clear that they like him, or just plain doesn't take advantage of the situation. Like, there's a point where one of the girls in the series is completely naked in his tent with him of her own free will, no misunderstandings here, and she wants to snuggle with him, and being the typical lead in the harem doesn't take advantage. This anime really isn't that bad, but it is just pretty generic. I might do a full review on it later on this year.
At number 7.
Okami Son and her 7 companions. The show centers around Ryoko Okami, a tomboyish high school girl. She's a member of a club known as the Togi Bank. She and her other members of the club fix the problems presented by students of any sort by any means, in exchange for the students helping them out later when they may need it. Now, I can't really call this anime generic because it does have a pretty unique premise, but I just don't know. It just, something about this anime makes me like it less than other anime that I've listed so far. Now, like I said before, the first few animes that I've talked about didn't really deserve to be on this list. They weren't particularly bad, they were just anime that I didn't like as much as other anime that I saw this year. But now we are getting into the anime that I really didn't like, starting with
At number 6.
Mysterious Girlfriend X. This series follows the relationship of Tsubaki and Urube. Urube is a transfer student who recently came to Tsubaki's school. After a series of strange events, Tsubaki finds himself addicted to Urube's drool. They soon become a couple, and their relationship slowly progresses, focusing on the odd bond that comes from the drool attachment. Now, you would think that my problem would be the premise of the show. Well, that's not really the case, Harry. I think the premise is pretty unique, and it doesn't really bother me. But what does bother me is that the questions that you have about Urube is one of the main things that drives you to want to continue watching this anime. Questions like what makes her drool special, why is it like that, what's her family like? Well, be prepared to be slapped in the face because you get none of those questions answered. We get no resolutions, we don't even get to learn why the letter X is in the title of the anime. So because of that, this anime feels like a complete and utter waste of time, and on top of that, it has a go read the manga ending. And I wouldn't be so mad if we actually learned something significant about Urube that would get me to want to go read the manga, but it doesn't, and that's what lands it on this list.
At number 5.
Orimo Hamari or something, I don't know how to pronounce the title of this anime. The plot of this anime is that 7 years ago, the main character's parents died in a car accident, leaving him alone without a single relative. The only item left in his family was a strange and mysterious amulet given to him by his late grandmother. His life takes a drastic turn on his 16th birthday when he meets Himari, a cat demon samurai girl. Himari reveals to him that some of his ancestors were part of a 12 demon slayer families that have been slaying demons since the feudal era. She has sworn an oath to protect the MC from demons that are out to kill him. So this is an action, supernatural, romantic, comedy, harem, ecchi series, and it's just super generic. I just felt like I was just going through the motions, not really caring about what was going on. I could care less about this series.
At number 4.
Chaos Head. Well, this anime centers around Takumi, a high school student at the private Suzumi Academy, or however you pronounce it. One day, he hears about these murders that have been occurring around the city. He dismisses the subject because it doesn't involve him, but then Takumi begins to experience strange mishaps around him, from a horrific picture he received on his computer to a mysterious pink-haired girl standing at a murder scene. From there on, Takumi struggles to cope with the events unfolding around him and is soon unaware of what is real or delusion. Now, this anime seemed pretty promising in the beginning, but it just doesn't deliver. If you've seen this anime, you probably know what I'm talking about, but I'm done talking about it because we're now to the top 3, starting with
3.
Mocking Key. This is another show about a guy who goes to a school to learn how to use some type of magical weapon, and it's also a romantic action harem ecchi like Absolute Duo. What makes the series worse than Absolute Duo is the fan service in the series is so obnoxious. Obnoxious? Am I saying that word correctly? I hope I am. It's just so annoying instead of enjoyable. And it's so annoying that I think it actually takes away from what little story that there actually is. But there are 2 things that I actually do like about this series, and that are the characters and the animation in this series. They are both great, but man, that fan service just turns me off, and I heard that season 2 is even worse.
At number 2.
Recently, my sister is unusual. One day, this girl named Misaki ends up getting possessed and followed by this ghost named Hawari, who I guess just recently died because she can't seem to pass on to the world beyond. So that means she still has some unfinished business. So what is this unfinished business? Well, she's never told the person that she loves how she felt before she died. And the person happens to be Yuya, Misaki's new stepbrother. You can already see where this series is going. So Hawari, the ghost, is kind of forcing Misaki to help her because if she doesn't, she will die. So basically, to sum things up, the story is about Misaki is being forced to woo her new stepbrother, or in other words, get him to do sexual stuff with her, otherwise she will die. What type of messed up anime is this? Just from the description, you could probably tell why I didn't like this series. I might do a full review of the series to give you guys my full thoughts in the future, but for now, let's move on to the anime I felt was the worst one I saw this year. and that would happen to be...
And my number 1.
They say that my rise to the top.
Exes, or Kisses, however you want to pronounce it. So for those that don't know what Exes is, it's an anime about a 15-year-old guy named Kenta who has two twin sisters named Aiko and Riko that are 1 year older than he is and that are in love with him. But the thing is that they are his stepsisters and have no blood relation to him whatsoever. But that doesn't make it right for them to feel this way, it just makes it a little less wrong. So the story basically revolves around Kenta as he tries to resist his sister's sexual advances. Now if you guys really want to hear my full thoughts on the series, I will leave a link to the video I did called Is Exes Really That Bad in the description below. But to sum up my thoughts here, it's pretty messed up and the OVA series is even worse. Well, there you guys have it. Those were my top 10 worst animes that I saw in 2015. Again, the first few animes that I talked about really weren't all that bad. It wasn't until I started talking about Mysterious Girlfriend X that I felt like the animes really did deserve to be on this list. So what did you guys think of my list? What was the worst anime that you guys saw in 2014? Please leave your comments down below. So, if you guys liked this video, like the video, and if you like me, subscribe to me. And as always, this is DDG Man, and I'll catch y'all next time.